It was a cloth hat. It was a cloth hat. I forgot to mention my immediate post-match reaction pod standing outside Ibrox on Saturday after the Livingston game. I was telling you my anecdote from Hampden in 1985 when my hat came off my head and it fell in that puddle, and I thought, and it absorbed. It was super absorbent. It had taken a lot of pit. But it's good to know that our new owners aren't going to take a lot of pit. They'll only take so much pit, and then they will act. I've shooting this back to front. By the way, I've deliberately put the selfie mirror thing on so that this is shooting back to front because we need all the superstitious help we can get. We've got to reverse the run that we're on in the Europa League group stage just now, but I feel that there's just a shift, a massive shift is happening. It's starting to happen, as we always envisaged it would when these guys took over in the summer. I just keep getting this image in my head, and you'll have to correct me because it's getting out of hand in my head. I'm adding things to it all the time. It's of Thelwell and Stewart down at St George's Park, Burton upon Trent, the England national team training facility down there, and it was Rangers TV are showing you little clips of the Rangers players warming up, training, taking instruction from our new head coach Russell Martin. You know, they're knocking the ball about, they're jumping over tiny little barriers, and they're turning around and they're running back, and they're sweating, and it's sunny, and it's they're working for you guys, they're working for you, and in the background. I think there was at one point there was a kind of close up, just to one of those kind of mood type pieces to show you how things were going in the summer and the really busy close season. And it was Patrick Stewart and Kevin Thelwell, and they were sitting in this little stand type scenario. In fact, just one row of seats, because obviously it's mostly just it's a training facility. There's just one row of seats, which would be really good at the juniors or something like that, and it's got a little roof over it, so they're in the shades, and they'd be sitting there with t-shirts on, like club t-shirts, official club merchandise probably. But the more and more I think about it now, in the past few days, it's like they were sitting with champagne flutes and some canapes and that kind of thing, and just laughing and guffawing and the shades on and stuff like that. But it's like they were just Russell, how's it go? How's big Nasser Jiga working out for you? Well, he's actually got a massive gash in his head. We're having to put a bandage, and he said give him stitches. Commitment, that's it. The total commitment. Told you. Wolverhampton Wanderers, Nîmes in France, Red Star Belgrade, and international for Burkina Faso. You're welcome, Russell. No, it was a passing drill. And he's done his hit. All right. How's the bounce game gone? Anyway, how did the bounce game go? We drew one each. Oh, well, Burnley are good. I mean, Burnley are Premier League standard. They've been up and down in the Premier League. I mean, Vincent Kompany left them, and he's away to top man. It was Barnsley. Burnley playing Burnley. It was Barnsley that we've drawn one each way. Right, fair dues, Russell. Talk to you later. I'm just going to make a few phone calls, Patrick. You phoning your estate agent, Kevin. I don't think it's worth moving to Glasgow. I think I'll just keep the house in the Wirral. I'm getting things like that in my head. I'm exaggerating stuff. I'm making them out to be more kind of evil and wanton than they actually were. I was sitting the other night when I posted the piece I did on the two of them. The piece, oh my God, how self-aggrandising. The wee absolutely ranting and raving podcast I did on Monday night in the early hours of Tuesday morning about the departure of Thelwell and Stewart, and I was just doing that thing of sitting down the laptop and breaking up the pod into timestamping it. My pods are always far too long. This one's already shaping up to be far too long. So the least I can do is break it up into little sections. So I'm sitting in the living room, and I've got the modern day equivalent of the coal fire on, which is just having the TV on. It's on mute, but it's like the room doesn't feel right unless the television's on. So I've got the television on mute while I'm sitting breaking up the podcast on the laptop. And I noticed it was the Monday Night Football. It was on Sky. It was on Sky Sports. Not the Monday Night Football, the Monday Night Football, the original Monday Night Football, the American Monday Night Football, and it's the 49ers. It's the Carolina Panthers, Pumas, whatever. There's always some sort of big cat. They're at the 49ers in the Levi Stadium, built by Parag Marathi. It will host World Cup matches next summer. 68,500 capacity. It's already hosted the Super Bowl. It can expand to 75,000 for the World Cup if so required. It's one of the most modern and technically brilliant stadiums on the planet, and that's that guy's at Rangers right now. But I'm sitting watching that, and I'm thinking maybe I was too hard. And this, as I'm breaking up the pod, I've got to listen to the pod back. Maybe I've been too hard on Thelwell. That I was making me jokes about the kind of nepotism aspect of things. He's hired his son, and buying people from his old jobs. Hiring a guy for Wolves where he used to work to look after the academy. He's buying Chermiti, obviously, for £8 million, and maybe I'm being too. But he's got Dan Purdy working for him, and he did bring Dan Purdy from Everton. And then I see a wee close up of the 49ers quarterback, Purdy, Brock Purdy. As soon as 49ers Enterprises took over, he just was like, I'll just go and take some of their guys as well. Brock, you got a brother that's looking for something to do. I'll get him into get him into Rangers as well. 3 interceptions. He threw 3 interceptions, but they did win. They did win, the 49ers in the old NFC West, and that was the first time they've recorded back-to-back victories this season. Still in with a chance. Does that sound familiar? Lazy get. What an absolutely lazy get. How you doing, folks? This is your Fat Eck. Please, for God's sake, Rangers just going to bloody win. In fact, a draw. Jesus Christ, I'd bite your hand off for a draw, even though that obviously means we'd go 3-0 up in the first 20 minutes, and Braga would equalise with 3 goals in injury time at the end of the second half. I'll sign that Faustian pact in my kind of 1/3 man, 1/3 rotisserie chicken, 1/3 pork chop blood, O negative, but let's be positive right now, because at least that way we've got a point on board at the start of the second round, if you like, of group fixtures, the last 4 group fixtures. We've got the potential grannying offer back if we manage to get a point, because right now we're heading towards a much grimmer and grimier and frightening version of that game versus Grasshoppers Zurich at Ibrox I was at back in 1996-97 with 0 points on board in that Champions League group, but managed to win our penultimate game. And even though Auxerre did us quite easily in France in the last game in that group, I mean, they made us remove our McEwen's Lager sponsorship. It was a bit like asking Samson to get a number 2 all over. At least we'd avoided the disgrace of Neil Poix, and we're looking at this scenario at home to Ludogorets in January with RODRIGO awaiting in the final game. This is no longer about qualifying for the knockout rounds of this season's Europa League. It's about avoiding humiliation, and the majority of the easier fixtures in this group are done for us. We've lost them all. Preview pod coming to you in association with Gersnet. Check out Gersnet every Friday 9 p.m, every Sunday 9:30 p.m, live on the Gersnet YouTube channel, and in association with really, just the phrase, using the word really like that as a phrase, as a response, as one complete whole sentence with a kind of sarcastic implied, really? Is that really? I'm far too old for that. I don't know if it was Clueless, the movie. It was used in that, but it's got that very kind of American West Coast brat girl, and as much as I try, I am not that. This pod's supposed to be enlisted to fight what Martin Amos calls it the war against cliche, and here I am using real kind of housewives of cancerous levels of venal entitlement county patter on this. No, I'm far too old for that. Maybe me using it is so against the grain that it does defeat cliche, or at least brings cliche to the negotiating table with a UN resolution in the post. But no, this has to stop. I'm sponsored by the fact that we need to stop, especially people of my age, and I need to stop using really. I don't remember if it was used in the movie Clueless, but I do remember the first time I heard it, and I was walking along the towpath of the Forth and Clyde Canal as I was going for 2 big bags of shopping. A Saturday afternoon, that wasn't it? It feels it was a Saturday afternoon anyway. Quite a nice day, and I walked along the towpath of the canal coming for Morrison's in Annie's Land to come to where the house I used to stay in a few years ago, and there was this young couple in front of us. I think they were going right the way through to Mary Hill. And I was just getting to the bit where I would cut off and go back up onto the street. But they had this really cute wee dog with them. It really was a proper cute wee puppy. I think it was maybe a black lab or something like that. It was so ridiculous. And folk were going by and kind of cooing and oohing and ahhing at it on it. And it was jumping up on them and running about. And that was absolutely fine. But as I got towards it, it's kind of looking at me and it's coming up to me, and I'm like, that's fine. But I've got my hands are full of my grub that I'm going to have on a Saturday. But it starts kind of doing a figure of eight. It's running about, and it's like, oh, that's not lovely. And you're looking at them, they're smiling at you, but they were smiling at me kind of expectantly, like, yeah, you will love our puppy. And I'm thinking, well, I do, but that's not. And it starts doing a wee figure of eight in between my feet, and I eventually had to say to Lassie, look, because I wasn't going to stop. I was going to put my bags down. I was going to, it's going to, I'm going to end up. It's running between. I need to keep walking. I'm going to end up kicking it accidentally because it's not. And I think they weren't basically didn't have their dog under control. Is what I'm trying to say. And that's the lassie was just like, really. No, I think she's kind of saying it to her boyfriend or her husband, partner, whoever he was. Really, is he really saying that? And I just was like, aye, really. I'm going to, just keep walking. Alec, just keep. Well, that's the first time I remember. That, and it's that kind of folk that sometimes the folk have got wains. I don't have any wains myself. I love wains. I love it. I've got a nephew and that kind of thing, and it's and folk. I've got plenty of pals in relations and that have got kids, and they're like, they love their wains to death, but they don't do that thing. You always get the impression that people who are out in public are shoving their wains or their dogs or that in your face and going, love them. But how can you not? Like, they're kind of blackmailing you, and there's something. And she turned on me really quick from, oh, we've got a cute dog, to, I'm going to try and get my boyfriend to stab you. It's that kind of, folks. That's really. I've got to stop using really, because it's getting a bit out of hand. I just remember the Sheffield Wednesday a couple of weeks ago. Sheffield Wednesday supporters were celebrating because they went into administration. And we knew why. They were celebrating because they'd get rid of the I mean, we just went fifth in the league. We went fifth in the SPFL Premiership in late November, which is really embarrassing for us, without kicking a ball. The other night we Motherwell beating Hibs. And I say we don't have a single point in the Europa League group stage, and we're playing Braga, who are fifth in the Europa League and doing really well. A really tidy team, a really dangerous team. And the Rangers support is absolutely buzzing. We just feel absolutely fantastic. The Danny Rule effect, well, it might be if his criticism of the current squad and Kevin Thirlwell's proposals to update the squad in January are what ended up getting rid of Kevin Thirlwell and Patrick Stewart. I think that's too simple, but obviously that's how simple football is. Then maybe it is the Danny Rule effect, but it's more than that. It just feels like there's a kind of tectonic plate shift going on. I know that happened in the summer, technically speaking, and people were saying to me when it was the official takeover was announced in June, and Marathi and Kavanagh were up there fronting up over in Scotland at Ibrox in the blazers and the ties and talking about their plans and saying, Kevin and Patrick will be your kind of day-to-day. We'll only come over when there's something bad going on, but we're pretty much going to be, we're not going to be absentee landlords or absentee owners. We'll be in touch with them all the time, but we're just going to take a back seat. And they couldn't. Their buffers just weren't working at all. But they were doing all that. I did a reaction pod to that, obviously, and people, your reaction pod wasn't very enthusiastic. Did you get doubts about the new owners? Have you got absolutely zero doubts? I had zero doubts whatsoever that this was exactly what we needed, and this was exactly what was going to, push us to success. But I had serious doubts about the kind of performative celebrations that were going on. Just like kind of desperate stuff waving at Celtic fans. We're coming to get, that. And it's like, you're the same people who are slagging the absolute seven shades out of the previous boards and everybody at Ibrox last season, and that, because really ignorant of the fact that board was trying to do what they could to get us in a situation. It was a minor miracle to get us in a situation where we were viable, where we were a football club that somebody like the 49ers Enterprises would want to get involved in. And more than that, I knew that there would be a bit of flexing required by not so much the Rangers support as a whole, but elements within the Rangers support who were used to, who had got dangerously used to their every whim being paid attention to if we didn't get the wins on the park, which is what everybody mostly wants. Protests and podcasts and shouting and screaming, and they would go out and they would buy the player you wanted, or this director Ross Wilson would get sacked or get another job or whatever. Everybody would disappear, or whatever. They would employ and sack people. We'd have a new manager every season, and I thought, these guys aren't going to do this. They're American businessmen. I was saying to Albert today, gets in touch, Albert, regularly. And the pod's stalwart of the comment section here, and always grateful to anybody taking the time to get back in touch. That's kind of stuff that keeps me going. People want to chat about the pods, but you said he worked in the oil business and dealt with Americans and that. They're ruthless when it comes to this kind of stuff. American business. I've only been to the States 4 or 5 times on holiday, various cities all over the place, but in New York a couple of times. And that's what I'm saying to him. It's like having a beer. Going out, and that's all you're doing when you're on holiday. You're just going to restaurants, you go to cafes, everyone's a negotiation. It's an ongoing kind of negotiation with the staff. And I remember being in Chicago, and they would do things like the staff and you had to get the Chicago deep thing with pizzas as a deep. Not working at all for me. But the staff in this restaurant we went to just say, "Well, I'll bring you back your change." Just say, "I'll bring you back your change." That's him telling you straight away. Your tip's not. If you're just going to tell me to keep the change, that's not going to be enough. And this isn't. It's kind of shocking sometimes when you're used to the British thing where it's like, "I bring me back my change, and then I'll decide what I'm going to tip." You know that, and you go into it straight away. You tip big all the time, but it's a business thing. Like you get that thing when you're in bars in the States, and it's what is it? Every time you buy a drink, you leave a tip, and then the third drink is on the bar staff, basically on the house kind of thing. So you got and once you're getting properly pissed, they don't really let you. They move you. It gets so everything's a kind of tense financial. It's money. There's more to the country than that, obviously, but it really is full on. A kind of bloodlettings all the time, and when it gets up to financially, when it gets to that kind of level, the corporate level, the stuff that Marathi and Kavanagh have been involved in the business, there was no way this was going to be anything other than that. Rangers would need to be successful, or their heads would be on the block, and that this wasn't going to happen. So I was really confident that I knew this was us. We're going to move on, but just when does it happen? And as I was saying the other night, I feel as if this is the moment. This is the moment you're feeling that, the old cameras, it's shaking, it's the tectonic plates, I don't want to, it's maybe a bit too soon. The San Andreas fault, 1906 earthquake in San Francisco from where where owners are coming. But I mean, they got the San Jose Earthquakes football team. George Best played for them when they were in the old NASL, but the MLS got a version as well. It's no, I mean, Chicago Fire, the big fire in Chicago, just the year before Rangers were formed. They've got a football team. That's what they called the football team there. So it can't be too soon. It can't be. But okay, what about the Montrose Basin thing? The 6,100 BC, the Stateside slide, just a pot. MD and Montrose are both that kind of. That was affected by that. 6,100. I'd like to pass on my apologies, and just there'll be a phone, there'll be a number at the end of the pod to put on screen for you to get in touch if you're still trying to go over that. But that big, the Stateside slide thing that happened, it was just up by Norway, and it's the tectonic plates up there, the shelf under the water, and it's 6,100 BC. It took a massive slide, a big massive landslide under the water. So it sucks in. It's a tsunami. It creates a tsunami, which hit like 240 miles of the northeast coast of Scotland, and these waves were like 70 foot high, and they think they got about 18 miles inland. And that thing's the Montrose Basin. There's signs of it, in the peat and the different sediments and stuff that's been left there. They only discovered it a wee while ago, but they realised there'd been this massive tsunami had hit Scotland and or doing that coast. And they think ultimately, because it was the Mesolithic population around about that time, 6,100 BC, about 8,000 years ago, and about a quarter of the population of Britain was basically done in by it, because they used to all hang about the coast in the days to try and get fishing and the shellfish and that stuff. It was good for the hunter, fisher, gatherer people who originally. But it's that kind of that bit where it's the water has got. Okay, San Andreas Fault, 1989. The San Andreas Fault popped up. It's a place just. When about 50 folk killed, 1906, I think there was about 3,000 folk injured or killed in the most famous San Francisco earthquake. But when about that was about 1989, and it was during the World Series. The World Series was they think the World Series saved people's lives because folk were all at home watching the game, or they were actually at the game. The game that night, it was in the World Series. It was the San Francisco Bay area. It was the Oakland Athletics against the San Francisco Giants. And the game was at Candlestick Park, the day that, it was October, I think 1989. He says as if, was it October? I'm trying to just go through my mind palace here of information. I looked it up on Wikipedia just about 5 minutes ago, but it was Candlestick Park, the famous Candlestick Park where the 49ers used to play in, where the San Francisco Giants shared it with the Giants for the baseball, and they think so many folk were at the game, or they were watching it at home. That the freeways and that, there was a lot of bridges come down. They were a bit quieter than they'd usually be at the time that earthquake hits, and that's Parag Marathi was brought up in the Bay Area. He was born in the Bay Area. And he moved the 49ers to Candlestick Park. He got them the Levi's Stadium. They're playing the Oakland Athletics. That's a few years later. The Oakland that's Moneyball. That's when Moneyball started. Do you know the Candlestick Park? Jamestown Avenue, Jamestown Analytics. That's we've got where analytics coming from. They played the Oakland A's, the Oakland Athletics in that World Series in 2002 World Series. That's the Billy Bean, played by Brad Pitt in the film, and that's the whole thing that Hearts are into the Jamestown Analytics. Well, they promised that the 49ers Enterprises, Kavnath and Marathi promised to be a data analysis based system. When they arrived, and they really are at the home of they come from the area where that stuff all started, and they are creating an absolute earthquake. This is the moment where the water's been sucked. This is the moment you can feel it. When they arrived in the summer, that was the landslide, the tectonic plate shift, and the water gets that eerie calm you apparently get before a tsunami. All the birds fly away, they know what's happening. The water goes right out the bays, suddenly drying. And this is weird, but it's quite peaceful, it's quite calm, but you can hear it. It might be January before it starts hitting land, but you can hear it coming. You can hear it coming, and the excitement is there. But when's the Celtic, the journalist at the pre-match presser today, the Portuguese journalists were keen on the fact that Braga have played Celtic already at Parkhead this season in the Europa League, and it's quite a strange thing, isn't it? So Rangers and Celtic in this new Swiss system, 36-team league. So we're both playing Roma at home, and we're both playing Braga at home. Us and Celtic, the old firm are playing Roma at home and Braga at home. And Celtic beat Sturm Graz 2-1 at Parkhead after we lost 2-1 in Graz to Sturm Graz. So playing the same three teams. I have a funny feeling, I'd just be quick, like Braga won 2-0 at Parkhead, and Roma won 2-0 at Ibrox. I'll go for a reversal. I'll take that. If Celtic want to beat Roma 2-0 at Parkhead, I'll take that, as long as we're beating Braga 2-0 tomorrow night. But when's the last time Rangers and Celtic played the same club in the same European competition in the same season? Answers at the end. It's not going to be the end of the show. I'll probably slip it in before the end of the show, but just something for you to think about while I bore the backside off you. The snagging list, the snagging items from the last pod. That was just one full-on rant of delight about Thelwell and Stewart leaving. The snagging from the post-match reaction pod for the Livingston game, I didn't even the cold really messed with my head outside Ibrox the other night. It's quite an amazing thing. The SAS do that weather training. How can you think under extreme heat in the jungle, or extreme colds up in the Antarctic, and that down in the Antarctic? They don't. I don't. I couldn't handle it outside Ibrox on a Saturday night. So I was talking about Albion, us ground sharing with Livingston to play Albion Rovers. It was Albion Rovers that were obviously technically ground sharing. They were using Livingston's ground as their home ground in that Challenge Cup game. So it wasn't us that were ground sharing. That's just complete nonsense. Sorry about that. And I forgot to mention the Jack Butland save after the Tav slipped. Tav slipped up. He's got warhorse status now, hasn't he, Tav? He's officially a warhorse. He slipped up, didn't result in a goal conceded by Rangers, because a great save by Jack Butland, and Tav did assist in both the goals, so we scored. I mentioned the fact that Livingston had a good chance to equalise with about 2 minutes to go of the injury time that was applied at the end of the game. I forgot to mention it came from a Livingston free kick, a set piece. And yet again, I asked the question, is Scott Fry here just to help us score from set pieces, which we did in the same game, or is he here to help us defend set pieces? Because we're going to need that. We really are going to need that. Yeah, tectonic plate shifting. That's how I feel. I feel as if things are really moving. The new owners are they've made their mark. They're showing they're not going to mess about. My name's Alec Anderson. Well, the oppressors are trying to keep me down, making me feel like a clown. And they think that they have got me on the run. I said, forgive them, Lord, they know not what they've done. 'Cause as sure as the sun will shine, I'm gonna get my share, now what's mine? And the harder they come, the harder they fall, one and all. Oh, the harder they come, the harder they fall, one and all. Just put that on the morning night, Rangers. Put it on. R.I.P. Jimmy Cliff. What a time to be my age when these fellas are all passing away. Patrick Stewart got onto the legal and regulatory working group of the European football clubs. Remember that? It was a few weeks ago. The EFC, a hugely influential governance forum. He leaves Rangers needing to get on the board in the UEFA Europa League, a massively influential 36-team league table, which we currently lie rock bottom of with 0 points after 4 games. 2 goals worse off than fellow Neil Poiters Nice, at a point worse off than Utrecht, Malmo and Maccabi Tel Aviv. We can't finish bottom. We cannot finish bottom of this group, folks. We mustn't, not after what we've done in this beautiful competition. It's so far a beautiful competition for us, the Europa League. Don't ruin those memories, Rangers. So if you think I'm just going to do that, my name's Alec Anderson, and I'm here to talk to you the night before we play Braga and our 5th group game of this season's UEFA Europa League. And so if you think I'm going to do it, everything's changed now. The mood's changed, the atmosphere's changed. There's no way I'm going to do my usual kind of European preview pod. Just a cliche. It's a war against cliche. I'm just going to rhyme off a few stats about the club that we're playing, what they've done in Europe in the past, how they got on last season, how they qualified for the Europa League group stage this season, what their form has been in the previous games, and what we did domestically last Saturday in our last out and how we got on so far in this week. If you think I'm going to do all that kind of stuff, then you have got another, and maybe I should mention that who scored their goals for them in their previous. I better put that in there. You got another thing coming, baby. Ibrox, baby. Yanis Hadji might just as well have said Thursday night, baby. Ibrox on a Thursday night, baby. We've lost that buzz about Ibrox on a Thursday night this season, and I absolutely hate it. And this might be the best possible way to get it back. The 49ers have arrived. They've properly arrived. They've made their mark. They've announced themselves. This is when Lawrence Marlborough signed Souness. That's what it is. Lawrence Marlborough took over. It was 1985. Lawrence Marlborough took over. I was saying this the other night. I'm sorry to keep repeating myself. Then he gets David Holmes in. I remember David Holmes' announcement in front of the... In fact, I probably got it there. I've got all my old Rangers news he's done there. It's got this guy, David Holmes, arrived. Falk, what's he all about? This seems really... And then I just sitting one Monday. It's a Monday. It must be a Monday thing. I'm sure it was a Monday night. I'd been at the Spurs friendly on the Sunday. And then the Monday night, I'm sitting in my chair in mum and dad's house. I'm having my dinner. It was my house. I stayed there at the time. I was only 17, wasn't I? It was 1986. I'd be 16 at that point in time. I was 16, coming up to 17, and I remember it was fish fingers. It was fish fingers, and I got a fish finger on in my mouth, and it was like on the British news, like the 6 o'clock BBC news. Moira Stewart, Rangers have sacked Jock Wallace. What? This was the first I was hearing about it. No text, no days, no phones, no internet. Rangers have sacked Jock Wallace. And they're going to replace him with Graham Souness from Sampdoria. And it's like, I'm pretty sure for the first time in my life, a bit of food fell off my fork and landed on the floor, did not make my mouth. This is that moment. They've been there, they've taken over. That was big news. It was much bigger news than when Lawrence Marlborough, Nevada-based Lawrence Marlborough, that American connection. But it's much bigger news when the 49ers took over in the summer, even though we knew that was coming. But this is the moment they hit. This is the moment they land. Things didn't go smoothly under Graham Souness at first. It wasn't instantly successful. Won the league the following season, but we'll take that on board. We've been through enough. We can handle this. And let's just shake it up and get it back to the previous times we've played Braga. It's the 3rd time we're going to play Braga at Ibrox. It's the 5th match in Europe, the 3rd tie that we've played them in. The previous 2 were home and away 20th of February 2020, 2020 Braga, the first club we played in European competition in the 2020s. And it was the 20th 2-0/02/2020, and we're 2-0 down in the first leg at Ibrox. The very first match we played in the 2020s in European competition under Steven Gerrard. It was, we're 2-0 down, and 2 goals by Hadji brought it back. It was, they were both wearing Hummel kits. The pitch was mucky. Alfredo got himself stupidly booked, and that was him. That cost us the Scottish Cup. That had a knock-on effect. He was suspended for the second leg, and so that was the. I think we're only 1-0 down at that point when Alfie get booked in that game. That meant he was suspended for the second leg, and we won the tie, and we won the second leg, and he was a big huff and didn't come back in time for Colombia for the game against Hearts in the Scottish Cup, the relegation-bound Hearts in the Scottish Cup on a Saturday, and then we lost the following game to Hamilton Accies, and it looked bleak for Steven Gerrard, but things worked out okay in the end. But Alfredo Morelos is missing chances. We're missing chances left, right, and centre. They scored this goal. I mean, the goal they scored against Ricardo Horta scores a goal against Celtic at Parkhead in this season's Europa League from about 40 yards out. It's very, very reminiscent, except that I think that Danish goalkeeper that Celtic have got, I can't remember his name. He's not a very famous name. I think he's maybe slightly at fault for the one Horta scored at Parkhead this season. Alan McGregor could do nothing about the one at Barbosa. What's his name again? I've got it written down here somewhere because I'm always forgetting it. It was an absolute doozy. Fran Sergio Barbosa, a Brazilian, never played for Brazil, but my God, I think he was the captain as well, and same as Horta is for Braga this season. Just turned and pinged one in the first half right into the top bin of the Copeland. I thought, Jesus, that's quite a goal. And in the second half, it was he was making his debut, wasn't he? Ruiz, he was making his debut for Braga that night. He was on loan for Barcelona, and it was a beautiful move they had at the start. And it was just on the hour mark. Being at fault for a few bits, and he pings it in from a kind of reversed shot from outside the box, just outside the line of the D, into the bottom corner. Al McGregor rooted to the spot. It was phenomenal football from Braga. It was fantastic. We just come back, and Yanis Hadji, who scored against Hibs, he scored a late winner against Hibs in the league midweek, and his dad's in the stand, and he scores at the first goal, and he pings it in off the post, which is a goal that very reminiscent. His first goal, Hadji, the goal that started the comeback. That was us 2-0 down with half an hour to go. And it's about 20 minutes to go, I think, when Hadji scores the first goal for us. And it goes in off the post, hits it right along the ground, bottom of the post, into the corner of the net, bounces in. And that's very much like the goal that beat Feyenoord. I think it was when Braga played Feyenoord this season at home, they scored a goal. It was only goal of the game, Navarro, 79th minute, identical. They kind of finished the Hadji's in off the bottom of the post. And then Joe Aribo, who'd had to move to fullback, he goes dribbling. I think he's going for Glenn Kamara in that game, and he goes amazing. Oh, he's lost the ball to Dana Aribo. He beats 15 guys, equalises, and then we get the free kick, and it deflects off the ball. It's Hadji again, and it goes. We win 3-2. We go over there. Hadji misses a penalty, and doesn't matter. Ryan Kent scores. Rangers without Alfredo, doesn't matter. We did the business, and that was us. And Yanis Hadji had scored the goals in the first leg that turned the tie around to put us into a last 16 tie against Bayer Leverkusen, and Yanis Hadji was born the day Rangers beat Leverkusen in Leverkusen, the last time we'd played Bayer Leverkusen in Europe. Bayer Leverkusen winning last night against Manchester City at the City of Manchester Stadium where we played our previous European. Just take it. Just the coincidences. Just take it easy. No, everybody's interested in that. You're taking a whitey, mate. It's too much. The next time we played Braga, of course, a couple of seasons late. This will be the first time tomorrow night we've played Braga pre-Christmas in Europe, or pre the knockout stages. Next time we played them, that was the last 32. Next time we played, it was a quarter-final. Of the Europa League, and we were 1-0 down for the first leg. Ruiz had scored in that one as well. So Hadji scored twice, Ruiz has scored twice, Tav scored twice this night. So Hadji missed a penalty. That was his chance to score 3 goals in this tie. Tomorrow night, James Tavernier could become the first guy to score 3 goals in Rangers Braga games. It's because there's he's on 2 goals, the same as Hadji and Ruiz. He comes at Tav scores just after the minute mark. The place goes absolutely mental. That thing's level great. It was Barisic back post, Barisic to the fullbacks. The thing we were doing all the previous season and winning 55. Place goes crazy. 3 minutes later, another goal, but it gets chopped off. And if you think Celtic were complaining when they lost 2-0 to Braga at Parkhead this season, Celtic thought they equalised on the night, but it was an innocuous handball that got it disallowed by VAR. See the innocuity of the handball that got that goal disallowed for Kamar roofing it in the 5th minute for the handball. Again, Borna Barisic, one of his greatest games for Rangers. A beautiful cross, a killer cross, but he was adjudged to have the ball kind of just touched his hand, which was getting out the way of it in the way to making the cross. But that was a brutal thing. It didn't matter. It ended at Tav penalty towards the end of the half. They got a player sent off as well. But and then late on in the game, they equalise. On aggregate, the first season of the away goals rule being dropped, thank goodness. We would have played it different. We would have played it different if the away goals rule had applied. So 10 men, corner, set piece, Bangin, they equalise, it goes to extra time, and we pummeled them. I mean, we had the ball in the net 6 times that night against Braga, and only 3 of them counted. Scott Arfield and Kamar Roof both had horrendous misses from practically under the crossbar, missing kind of open goals. Braga ended up getting our guy sent off, but the goal we scored at the start of that thing, I mean, did the same in the semi-final, that beautiful thing. Kamara, Reid and Joe Aribo, the move, just the shift in the ball so gracious, so gracefully. And it goes across the front of goal, and Kamar Roof, who's just one of the greatest strikers I've ever seen in my life. He's there to pop it in the back of the net, and the joint goes wild, and 3 days later we were 1-0 down to Celtic in the semi-final of the Scottish Cup with 20 minutes to go. And we've played extra time on the Thursday night against Braga, and we beat them as well. Cracking couple of days. It was just great fun. I want to get into that again. We're going to do that again, folks. Everything's going to be all right. Braga, they lost the 2011 Europa League final to Porto. Porto, there's a bit of a rivalry. They're quite close to Porto in Portugal, as Porto and Braga, the places are quite close to each other. It's a bit of a kind of a local derby almost, even though Porto have got Boa Vista in their hometown. And they should have played Boa Vista in an actual Oporto derby in the 2003 UEFA Cup final, but Celtic went and beat Boa Vista at Dobessa in the second leg, having drawn with they drew with Boa Vista in the first leg. That's it. But then in 2011, this one's in Dublin, so there's a kind of Celtic connection. I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just a Celtic thing. Dublin's. You see Republic Island fans at these games with Celtic tops on and stuff. I know maybe Shamrock Rovers tops, but there's definitely Celtic fans there as well. I'm just saying, I mean, it's like if Rangers played a game at Windsor Park or something, there'd be a significance there, I mean, other than a friendly that we'll play. So they've actually played, they nearly got a derby 2003 Porto, then they got one in 2011 at Dublin, and they beat Braga, so they're European finalists to get off the list, but I got them off the list back in our very first European tie of 2020, as I was saying. This will be the 3rd time I've seen Braga at Ibrox. 3rd time Braga played at Ibrox. So Porto, we're going to play Porto for the 4th time in Porto this season. We've basically got Borussia Dortmund are the only one to beat that. 5 times we've played Borussia Dortmund at Ibrox. We played them home and away every time, Borussia Dortmund, so we played them 5 times at home, 5 times away. Not the same stadium, because it wasn't the Westfalen the first time we played Borussia Dortmund in Europe, but that's another story. Sparta Prague, we've played them 3 times in Europe. VfB Stuttgart, I was only 2 of those against Sparta Prague. The latter 2, it wasn't the European Cup game in 91-92. VfB Stuttgart, 3 times I've played them in Europe. I've been at all 3 of them. Cologne, we've played them 3 times in Europe. I've only been at one of those ties. The one in the 60s and the one in the early 80s, I missed that as well. Borussia Mönchengladbach, played them 3 times in Europe, home and away. Again, different stadiums for the away team, but all at Ibrox. I was only at one of them, the 86-87 one. Bayern, we've played them 4 times at Ibrox, and we played them a 5th time in a European final. I was only at 2 of them. So Red Star Belgrade, we played them 4 times in Europe. I've been seeing them 3 times Ibrox, and Stoya or FCSB. If you think Stoya and FCSB are the same club, and I do, we've played them 4 times at Ibrox in Europe as well. And I've been at played Inter 3 times, Manchester United, we played them 3 times at Old Trafford, but only twice at Ibrox. I was at 2 of the games against Inter. So this is it's a big thing anyway, playing a club for a third, and it's such good memories that the previous 2 ties, there's a danger we'll think it's going to be the same thing again for Rangers. But VfB Stuttgart, we beat them 2-1 in really similar circumstances, going 1-0 down to a kind of polyglot, a guy with all sorts of different ancestry. Parents from different countries and grandparents from different countries again. 2 different strikers, Kevin Karanye and what was the guy called? He was always missing horns and chances for Germany. Mario. Anyway, he was a striker in 2008 at the Euros. I remember that for a fact. But he scores for Stuttgart that night. They took the lead both times, and we beat them 2-1 both times in Champions League group stages. And the third time we played them, I thought more of the same. Please, they beat us 2-0, going on 4 or 5-0. So I hope it's not the same. The third time unlucky, so to speak. Portugal, amazing football country. Not a massive population, was about 16 million or something like that. Probably most famous, of course, I think. Portugal for what the green and white hoops did in the Estadio Nacional back in the days of the European Cup. You know, it was September 1955. Sporting Club de Portugal played the very first match ever in the European Cup, the very first European Cup tie, very first European game. Was it 2nd of September 1955, and they staged it at the Estadio Nacional, and they drew, I think it was 3 each, with Partizan Belgrade, and that was a European Cup, off to an absolute flyer. I'm only joking, of course, the green and white hoops, Lisbon, the most famous thing there is the fact that Rangers have beaten Sporting 3 times in European competition, and 2 of those times we beat them on our way to a European final. Quite an amazing football country. Won the Euros 2016, did Portugal. They lost the final in 2004 to the Greeks in their home patch, but Porto and Benfica have won the European Cup, the Champions League / Champions League twice each. The Benfica lost another 5 finals as well. But Rangers have played 24 games so far. That's about our 25th game against Portuguese opposition. We've won 11, drawn 8, and lost 5. We've got a really good record against Portuguese sides. Touching wood there. I think it was a 3. So this will be the 3rd time against Braga. 3rd time we played Braga in a European tie. We beat them the previous 2 times. We Benfica played them twice. They beat us the last time we played them by the 1 goal over the 2 legs. 2 each and 3 each in the 2 group games in 2020, 2021 for us to finish top of the group in the Europa League, the old style Europa League groups. We played Benfica. Maritimo beat them in penalties. Boa Vista beat them home and away. 86-87 season. Porto, this will be the 4th time that we play Porto in Europe this season, but they beat us in the Cup Winners' Cup in 83-84, the same season. They beat us in the early rounds, 83-84 Cup Winners' Cup, because Aberdeen were the holders of the Cup Winners' Cup, and they'd beaten us. They won the Cup Winners' Cup in 83, then 10 days later they beat us in the Scottish Cup final. I was at that one, that Scottish Cup final. We both went into the Cup Winners' Cup the following season. Dundee United won the league in 1983, and so Porto beat us in the early rounds, and they beat Aberdeen, the holders, in the semi-final of the 83-84 Cup Winners' Cup. And not talking about Rangers and Celtic playing the same teams in Europe. 67-68 Fairs Cup, we lost to Leeds United in the quarter-final. No, the forerunner of the UEFA Cup. We lost to Leeds in the quarter-final. Leeds had beaten Hibs in the previous round, and they beat Dundee in the next round in the semi-final. So 3 Scottish clubs in a row, all losing to Leeds in the 67-68 Fairs Cup. In Leeds, they beat Ferencvaros in the final of that Fairs Cup. They beat Ferencvaros, who we're going to be playing, in our next. Stop. You got to stop with the coincidences, Alex. Overload. The tectonic plates are shifting. Calm yourself. They've scored 1-headed goal so far. They're 7th in the Primera Liga just now. Braga 5th in the Europa League. So they've played their previous 4 games. Have won 3 of them, lost 1 in this Europa League group stage. They're 7th, and they're having a kind of naff season by their recent standards in their domestic league. They're seventh. They won 4-2 in the Portuguese Cup on Sunday there against Nacional, who are only a few places below them in the top flight. So that was a decent result for them. But I think they've scored one-headed goal out of all the goals they've scored so far in the Europa League group stage anyway. Ricardo Hortas at Parkhead, that was a long-range beauty. But last season, Braga finished fourth in the Primeira Liga, and they were 5 points behind Porto, who were in the automatic Europa League qualifying spot. But Braga did this last season as well. Last season, they went through the three qualifying rounds of the Europa League: second qualifying round, third qualifying round, the playoff round, and they got themselves into the group stage, where they lost 4 games, drew 1 and won 3 games, and they failed to progress by a single goal difference. I think it was a single goal difference. They finished in 25th place, but we finished in 8th last season in this Europa League group stage, the new format. They finished in 25th, 1 place away from qualifying for the knockouts, and they went out on goal difference to Fenerbahce, who we then gave a bit of a doing on their away. Eventually we done to penalties, but we gave them a doing in their home patch, Fenerbahce, but managed by a Portuguese chap, were Fenerbahce when we played them in Europe last season. But last season they beat Hoffenheim and Lazio at home in the group stages. They lost at home to Bodo Glimt in the group stages, did Braga last season, but they lost away to Roma as well. So they're playing Rangers and Celtic this season, and they played Roma and Lazio last season. Braga, it's got interesting stuff for them, but again, this season, they've done it again. They've gone through 3 qualifying rounds again. I thought Portuguese clubs maybe get a bit more directly into the group stages, but no. They played Levski Sofia of Bulgaria in the first qualifying round, beat them. They beat Cluj of Romania in the second qualifying round. In the playoff, they played Lincoln Red Imps. I need to look into that, find out what happened that Lincoln Red Imps are doing so well as to be in the playoff round. The Lincoln Red Imps of Gibraltar. That's who stood between Braga and a second straight appearance in the Swiss system Europa League group stage. And of course they beat them, but they did beat Lincoln Red Imps. But Lincoln Red Imps played their home tie, as the Gibraltar national team did against Scotland in qualifying and in a friendly as well. They did it twice. The Gibraltar national team, Lincoln Red Imps, did the same thing. They staged their home tie against Braga in the Algarve Stadium in Faro in Portugal. So you get a situation where Braga are playing a foreign team from a foreign country, but they're playing them in their home country in their away leg. You ever think of that? You can think of that ever happening before? Well, Hibs 70 years ago on Sunday played Djurgården of Sweden in the first leg of the quarter-final of the European Cup. The Hibs away leg, the home leg for Djurgården was at Firhill. And I mention this as about every second European pod I do. I think it's something I find fascinating. But if you can come up with other scenarios where a team has played a foreign side in an away leg, on a home and away basis, in their own, they played the away leg in their own country. It's quite. Hibs won 4-1 in aggregate in that tie, but 20,000 odd at Firhill for the Djurgården home game. It was, 70 years ago, 1955. It's the very first season of the European Cup, and Sweden didn't have the undersoil heating or whatever back then. It was a winter time, so they needed to just probably save and cash as well. We'll play in Glasgow in our home leg, then we'll come through Edinburgh for the away leg. A wee jolly for the Swedish guys anyway. But that was great. But this season's group stage, when Braga get into the group stage, so they won the first 3 games. They beat Feyenoord 1-0, and at home, it was a nice goal, kind of cut into I think it's Horta on the left hand side, the captain. He's a playmaker, number 21. We got to watch him. I think he sets up. Everybody really did. Navarro, the number 10 Uruguayan international. He was born in Spain. He was a Uruguayan. He was born. I looked up on Wikipedia 5 minutes ago. I think he was born in Spain. From a vast mind palace knowledge of football, I looked up. He's a Uruguay international, and he was born in Spain. He's the number 10. I think he scored 10 goals so far this season. Navarro, he's a guy to watch. Dangerous. Him and Horta, the number 21, the captain. They then won away 2-0 at Parkhead. Horta 20 minutes, Martinez 85 minutes. They won 2-0 at home to Red Star Belgrade, Crvena Zvezda Beograd, in the third game, and that was Navarro being set up by Horta. Gets the byline and he pulls it back. I was watching these goals for Navarro to come in 22nd minute, and then Dorgeles in the 72nd minute. All the goals, everything's on the deck. It's on the deck. It's lovely, attacking, aggressive, as a manager was saying, as our head coach was saying today. Very aggressive on the ball, but very nice. They shift the ball about really smartly. We're up against it here, folks. And then the minute they didn't play a former winner of a former European Cup winner, they played Genk. Remember Genk, who beat us at home? Well, they beat Braga on their patch as well. 4-3. Genk beat them. Was it 4-3? 4-2? I think it might have been 4-2. 4-2, 4-3. Anyway, Genk put 4 past them. They scored one headed goal in that game. I think it's the only headed goal they've scored in the group stage. Again, that was Navarro, the number 10. Zalazar got 2 goals. I think one of them was a header. To bring it back from a Horta cross. As always, Horta's involved in absolutely everything. But Genk were 3-1 up against them, and then they went 4-2 up against them as they try to come back into the game. More interestingly for us, this was the first time they conceded any goals in the group stage. Braga, they conceded a header directly from a corner. That was one of the goals they conceded. And I think the second goal they conceded was an absolute car crash at the back. They're trying to play the ball out from the back. They get totally dispossessed. And Genk, who we know are crap, just we were so much crapper when we played them, they managed to go and beat. So there's hope there. There's hope in their league position as well that we could do something against Braga. They're playing us away, then they're playing Nice away, the 2 basement dwellers. The next 2 games are against the 2 teams with 0 points. So let's hope they just get cocky and they take their eye off the ball. They think this is points in the bag. Okay, right, the Celtic thing. When was the last time we played the same team as Celtic in the same European competition in any one season? In fact, I think the last time we played any side, the only other 2 times I can find anyway, that we played clubs in Europe in the same season that Celtic had played them was Artmedia Bratislava. When Artmedia Bratislava horsed Celtic, was it 5-0 in the qualifiers? Gordon Strachan's, maybe it's his first game in charge, second game in charge for Celtic in Europe anyway. They get beat 5-0 in Bratislava, and then they beat them 4-0 at Parkhead, so they only lost out by a goal in the end of it, but that was them out. And in the group stage of the Champions League that same season, of course, we played them, and I was at both games, the home and the away game, and we drew 0-0 at Ibrox, we drew 2-2 over there. I think Daryl Purcell and Stephen Thompson scoring in Bratislava, but so we drew with them, and Celtic beat them. Celtic lost them by 1 goal, so we do better. And then the Champions League 2007-2008, which ends with us getting to a European final. We played Barcelona in the group stage of the Champions League, and Celtic went through to the last 16, I think it would be, of the Champions League, and they played Barcelona as well. Now, we drew 0-0 at Ibrox and lost 2-0. Again, I was at both games. We drew 0-0 at Ibrox, and it was over at Nou Camp. We get beat 2-0. I mean, we just hardly touched the ball. But we get Lionel Messi, was it Thierry Henry, I think, got the other goal over in the Nou Camp that night. But Celtic lost home and away by a single goal, so we both lost by 2 goals. So very similar, but that's the time. Barcelona 2007-8 and Artmedia Bratislava 2005-6. Both times, both clubs playing them at various stages of the Champions League. Rangers and Celtic, that's quiz corner up there. Tab, Abel Ruiz and Yanis Hadji all got 2 goals each in this fixture. So that's something to look out for tomorrow. Troops, the press conference, the manager Danny Rule presser today. They're trying to find out. The hacks want to know. Come on, did you get Thelwell and Stewart sacked? It's always not nice when someone's sacked, says Danny, and he got on well with Patrick and Kevin, etc., etc. He could only make his. But was it the players? Was it your comments, your dossier on the playing squad? Is that what got them sacked? Well, I can only make my recommendations, and basically I can only call it how I saw it. I was talking in a previous pod about how self-effacing and almost kind of bashful and geeky Danny Rule is. I forgot to mention he clearly has, along with his innate compassion, a will of steel. A rod of iron goes through him. It's quite good. He thinks Fraser Thornton's going to be great as a kind of stand-in CEO. He's just talking first name terms with these guys. He's obviously writing about it. Very comfortable at the club is Danny Rule, and he said he had a meal with Kavanagh, the chairman. Must have been, I don't know, Monday night, Tuesday night, just talking to him more directly. Now just to go over what had happened with the people above him, and he's talking more directly to Kavanagh, now. There's always somebody he's in contact with, he says, between him and Kavanagh. Now it's just Kavanagh directly, if you like, while everything else is getting sorted out. He mentioned something about some 49ers people are around him now as well. I thought that was quite interesting. 15 Neuners, which you know, they probably call them the 49ers in Germany. Quite good with the languages. The January window, people ask him, right, what's going to happen in the January window now because your squad's crap. It's always special. He was saying the goal's to get impact players, and if some are coming in, some sometimes have to go out. Some players are coming in. Well, then we might have to sell some players just because we don't have too many players in too many positions. I thought that was very diplomatic. We have to work in this, but he also wants to get more out some of the players that we signed in the summer. I think some of the players that we did sign in the summer were absolutely acceptable. It's a busy schedule coming up just now, so the team that we have just now, there's going to be lots of opportunities. There's going to be rotation. He's going to rotate the squad, but the players must use the opportunities that they get, just as like Bajrami and Majowski did on Saturday when they came off the bench to help us beat the mighty Livingston. Braga, he was got to get in the front foot against them. He says they're very impressive, they're aggressive, they're organised, and he says he wants more training time. He wants more training time with his players to come up with a proper plan, but they're obviously not at that stage just now. There's too many, even when he's getting an international break, half the players are away on international duty. So he says, but matches, football matches, playing actual games gives you more instant feedback, which I thought was a very good way of putting it for a guy working in his second language. You find out where you are with your team in playing this kind of level of match. Excuse me. There's Portuguese journalists there today, and they were keen to ask mostly about Chermiti. Both the Portuguese journalists who asked questions in that conference today were asking about Big Chermiti, because he obviously plays for Portugal under 21s. And he was saying, Danny Rule said he's back in training. Youssef, he's lively, very lively. It's his best training session that he's seen from him since Danny Rule's been there. He's one of the players to develop and improve. That spoke to me of it being an amber light. He got maybe the amber lights in the traffic light system, and the dossier assessing the squad did big Youssef £8 million Chermiti, and he just wanted to talk to Youssef about his consistency. He's got to train intensely like that, enthusiastically all the time, and play like that at the highest level all the time. So I don't know. I'm wondering if he's maybe trying to sell them a little bit of a dummy to get the idea to Braga that Chermiti's definitely going to play. So he was injured at the weekend, but let's see what happens. He didn't rule out a league challenge either. Somebody asked him, do you think you can get back into the league title race? Because we're only... And he was quite keen to point out, yeah, we are only 5 points behind Celtic, and if we win our game in hand, we're only 6 points behind Hearts. So, this was quite... He said that the fan positivity about the sackings, people try to say to him, do you think the place is jumped now because you get rid of these two duds, and Russell Martin? But very diplomatically, again, he just knows that the fans always respond. The fans always respond when the players are on the front foot, and the opponents don't always make it easy, and he's always got a wee wry, kind of shy smile. Sometimes it's not easy to get in the front foot because you're playing against a team that will not let you. I think he's warning us about the standard of Braga. But in this beautiful thing, he said, it's our responsibility tomorrow to bring the stadium on fire. Chicago fire, San Jose earthquakes, tectonic plates are shifting. Nico Raskin interview was hilarious. I felt a bit sorry for him as well. Nico, I've been giving him a hard time, and I think he knows that people like me are giving him a hard time as well. He's a young guy in a foreign country, but I believe he is a troublemaker. I thought, but he knows that people believe he's a troublemaker, so he was basically trying not to kind of hit back at Russell Martin. He was being asked how difficult the season had been for him, and he was trying to be diplomatic again in a second language. Just a young man. But he's basically, you could tell he meant the whole Russell Martin thing had affected him badly, and he's still trying to get over it. It's affected his fitness and his concentration, what have you. And he had to point out that it wasn't a troublemaker at Standard Liège, because people have been citing this as well on podcasts. Idiots like me have been talking about how he created a bit of a stushy contract negotiation. He deliberately saw out his contract at Standard Liège to get a move, and he's trying to explain, and he's really keen to explain. I don't think the reporter that was asking the question actually meant anything about his time at Standard Liège, but he was like, no, I just wanted to know that wasn't me. It was just because they changed owners, the ownership changed at Standard Liège, or the bosses changed, so time eventually ran out. And he says if he's going to leave Rangers, he wants it to be a lovely thing. He wants to leave with everybody happy. He wants Rangers to get as much money from him as possible, and nobody has talked to him about his contract. Nobody's talked to him about signing him for other clubs, so he's just waiting for him to talk to him. But I think Sky did well to show his Dens Park celebration over the top of him, Nico, talking in this press conference about people making comments about him that don't really know what had happened behind the scenes, what he's been through, and maybe I'm one of them. But the bit where he's putting the fingers in the ears and he was just saying, don't listen to the crap you read. We thought he was having a go at the Rangers supporters, but he's telling the Rangers supporters. Remember Lee Wallace did that thing at Easter Road, where there's stuff in the Sunday papers about Lee Wallace or hating Rangers or what to leave Rangers, and he scored 2 goals. I think he scored the only 2 goals of the game. Lee certainly scored one. He ran the length of the pitch against his old Derby rivals, and then in the second half, I don't know if he scored the other one or he set it up, but he had an amazing game. And at the end of it, he just walked up to us going, "No, don't," and he's doing the whole thing with the newspapers. "Don't read that. Don't believe what you see in that. Just it's me. I want to play for Rangers." There's a touch of that today from Nico Raskin, and good on him. He came out fighting. It was good. The team, the injury situation. Cornelius, he had an operation today, according to Danny Rule, and that'll be him till the end of January probably. So I don't know if we'll ever see. His loan period was to the end of the season, but to the end of the season, I should have checked that. I'm too busy looking up the Wikipedia details about landslides and tsunamis and 6100 BC. Sorry, but John Souttar, he's still out. Mikey Moore, it's going to be a while before he's back. I think he said Joe is getting close. I'm assuming he means Rothwell. I think he was talking about Joe Rothwell. Everybody's very excited about that. Sorry, Joe. Dujon Sterling back in the European squad, but he says, I don't know if maybe he played, was there a youth game or a B team game or something in one day, or just maybe it was a behind closed doors something, but I think he just said he's only had one game. He says, and the game was in Monday, I think he was implying, since he's been back from 6 months out. So he says he's in the European squad for like the next few European games. It's not going. He's implying it won't be tomorrow night, which if only, I mean, I understand that it would be dodgy as anything to put Dujon Sterling straight back into the game, but we're so dodgy at the back just now. The understudies did not do well against Livingston. We're very unconvincing in defence. Even big Emi Fernandez scored the opening goal of the game for us. They weren't convincing at the back at all, so I don't know. It might be worth risking Dujon Sterling tomorrow night. But my starting 11, I had to think about this actually, more than usual. Like Jack Butland in goals, that's the easy one. I think Tav's going to go to centre half. He played Aarons and Magoma against Roma at home, did Danny Rule. So I think we're going to surely have to go back to the 3 centre halves just to get Tav in there to babysit the two of them. It's got to be Fernandez and Giga again, but this time with Tav in on the right hand side to kind of look after them. Even Tav, who went in his arse with 5 minutes to go and let a Livingston player clean through and goal on Saturday, but I'm sure he'll be back to it's European, and Tav is going to, I think tomorrow night or Thursday night, he becomes the all-time appearance holder, record holder for one club in the Europa League group stages, which is quite a remarkable thing. It'd be lovely if he could become the only guy to score 3 goals in the Braga Rangers fixture. But the way we're playing just now, and the way Braga are playing, they could be, the Horta could get 4 goals in the second half or something just to outdo everybody. It could go either way, this game. So it could go really, really badly, this game. It's what I don't know if it would go either way. I say Aarons and Magoma, I'm going to play the two of them at right back and left back respectively. Tav, Fernandez and Giga as your 3 centre halves. Dio and Raskin just do the European thing in the middle there. And that I'm going to go Gassama on the right hand, the left hand side, Ant-Man on the right hand side. I know Ant-Man, I just think he's going to try and hit him in the break. There was so much talk about going for it, about needing to be aggressive, needing to go for it. Big Chermiti as well. I think I would be quite happy if Rangers put 11 men behind the ball tomorrow night and just tried to get a point. Did anything they could to get a point. I think we could beat 4-0 tomorrow night, and the whole stadium will sing Danny Rowe's name for 95, 98 minutes, whatever it is. I think that's such a good, I feel good, a buzz about the place, as Paul McStay would have said. But we can't really go wrong, but we need to recover this. We need to do something. I don't want to finish bottom of this table. I certainly don't want to finish with no points. We need to do something to get back our Europa League rep. It's not about qualifying. It's about just getting this third polish. It's about avoiding humiliation. It would be an 8th straight defeat in Europe in one season for a club that finished 8th in this Europa League group stage this year, in January of this year. That speaks to how badly the recruitment has gone, how badly we've done under the new guys so far, and why they've just sacked everybody they need to sack. We can't risk Thelo Asgard again, can we? I don't think so. It's the striker. Who are we going to play as a striker? I think he's winding up the journalist. I think he's bluffing in the presser. I think it's going to be Majowski or Danilo, because Majowski works well with space in behind. We saw that against Livingston when there was a bit of space, when Livingston kind of come up the park, up to the halfway line. He was right in there doing his damage. Danilo's better ball management. We might need that against a very good footballing team, ball on the deck stuff. Braga, we might need a bit of better ball management. He's no fast enough, Danilo, but he could be playing in Gassama and Antman. I have a funny feeling that he'll use them for their pace. The goals that I saw, two of the goals eventually that they lost to Genk, Braga, came from good moves down the wings against on the ball getting cut back. So I think Antman, who was terrible against Liverpool, has been terrible all season except for the game against Pilsenia. I think him and Gassama could be using their pace again the way they did in that home game against Pilsenia back in the summer, with Danilo or Majowski being more of a kind of false 10 than anything else, a false 9, sitting back and helping play them in. That's my crazy idea. So let's go, call it, Alec, call it. I'm going Butland, Tav, Fernandes and Giga as your centre-halves, Aarons and Magoma as your full-backs, Diamandi and Raskin are wing-backs who are going to come up and support Diamandi and Raskin in the middle of the essentially 4-man midfield. And then you've got Gassama and Antman either side of Danilo. But it really could be anybody as a striker. If you take out one of those centre-halves, if we just go with the 4 at the back, 2 centre-halves, again, one of them's got to be Tav. It's got to be Tav. And I really don't know whether we'll drop Fernandes or Giga. They looked vulnerable in the air, did Braga, so perhaps if Fernandes has ability, and he scored twice against Alawa and Livingston, but he has scored twice in the air for us this season. Perhaps he could do the same against Braga, but that would let you play, do your kind of 4-2-3-1, and it gives you more options up front. But I think we're sitting in. I think we're going to sit in at home. I think we should sit in at home against this mob, because we're forgiving Danny Rule. We're almost forgiving the squad. They can't help how bad they are. They can't help wanting to sign for Rangers. There's such a feel-good factor just now. I think we should just sit in and try and play them in the counter-attack. Go for a 0-0. My score prediction, it's the first time Braga came to Ibrox, we scored 3 goals into the Copeland Road. The second time Braga came to Ibrox, we scored 3 goals into the Brimlin Road. So the third time, but obviously the romantic, we've run out of goals. We run out of end stands. We can't score 3 times into the Govan. It's not going to happen. We're not going to score. But the first time Braga came to Ibrox, they scored twice. The second time Braga came to Ibrox, they scored once. So they're not going to score. I'm going to go for 0-0. It's my superstitious head says 0-0, but my head says 2-0 Braga. My heart is going to go 1-0 Rangers, and maybe with 10 men, and it's going to be a last minute goal. I don't know, it just feels like everything's starting to motor. Like I say, it's the moment Lawrence Marlborough, having taken control in previous years and appointed David Holmes and as his chief executive, signed Graham Souness. This is the equivalent. It's April 1986, and it wasn't an instant hit, as I say. We won the league the following season, but it didn't work out really. But I think tomorrow night didn't work out instantly, especially at the end of the 85-86 season. But I think tomorrow night could be not the ultimate success when we signed Colin West and Neil Woods, but it's when we won the Glasgow Cup, 6 days after Celtic had won the league title, pipping Hearts to the league title. We got them in the Glasgow Cup final. It was 45,000 at Ibrox, and Ali McCoy scored a hat-trick. Now, Peter Latchford isn't in goals for Braga tomorrow night, as far as I know, but I think there could be an emotional thing there. We score a late goal, and it's Tav on the night. He becomes the record appearance maker in the Europa League group stages, the old warhorse, or it's Nico Raskin. Just got a cathartic vindication for Nico that he's back. But I say, My head says 2-0 to Braga. My heart says, my superstitious head says 0-0, but my heart says 1-0 to the Rangers, and relief and celebration all round. But as the manager said, it's our responsibility tomorrow to bring the stadium on fire. Well, we're with you, Danny, and it's our responsibility too. So let's set this joint alight. Cheers.